Picture this, 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Wojak Hamster is standing in the self-checkout lane at Walmart. One bag of store-brand rice, 1 gallon of milk. His paws are trembling, not from the cold, from something worse. The fluorescent lights above him are humming that sick yellowish buzz that makes everything look like a hospital waiting room. He swipes his card. The screen blinks, blinks again, declined, bright angry red. The woman behind him shifts her weight and her cart squeaks against the floor. He can feel her eyes on the back of his neck. He swipes again, declined. His mouth goes dry. Here's what makes this scene painful. Wojak did everything right, at least everything he was told to do. For 20 straight years, this hamster took 10% of every single paycheck and dropped it into a savings account. Didn't miss a month. Didn't cheat. Packed sad little lunches in brown paper bags while his coworkers went out for burgers. Drove a beat-up Corolla past the dealership every single morning, gripping the wheel, telling himself the sacrifice would pay off someday. He believed the rule, the sacred, untouchable rule that every financial guru, every bank pamphlet, every well-meaning uncle at Thanksgiving has been chanting for decades. Save 10% and you'll be fine. He's 47 now, standing under those buzzing lights with a declined card and $11 worth of groceries he can't afford. And he's starting to realize something that changes everything. The rule was never designed to make him rich. It was designed to keep him quiet. Let's do the math his bank hopes he never touches. Wojak earns $60,000 a year. Sounds decent. 10% is $6,000. Over 20 years, that's $120,000 in raw contributions. Now, if he was smart enough to invest it, say 7% average annual return, and that's generous assuming he didn't panic sell during every market dip, compound interest bumps that total to roughly $260,000. Maybe $270 if the stars align. Sounds like a lot? It's not. The average American spends $56,000 a year in retirement. Wojak's 20 years of discipline, brown bag lunches, and white-knuckle drives past the dealership bought him less than 5 years. 5 years of living. Then, the money's gone. Lights out. And Wojak is right back at that self-checkout, except now he's 67 and there's no paycheck coming. Wojak ran this number on his phone calculator at 2 in the morning. Ran it again, then a third time. Then he closed the app and stared at the popcorn ceiling for 20 minutes without blinking. If that math hit you the way it hit Wojak, if your stomach just dropped, subscribe now, because it gets worse before it gets better, and you need to see how this ends. Out in the parking lot, Flo King is sitting in his mom's minivan with the engine running, Viking helmet on, tall boy in one paw, battle axe bumper sticker on the rear window. He's screaming into a Discord voice chat about how saving money is for losers. Flo King is 35, built like a beer keg, still lives in his mom's basement in suburban Ohio, and his entire financial strategy consists of yelling Valhalla and waiting for a magical windfall that'll never come. Every Friday, his paycheck evaporates. Bar tabs, DoorDash, impulse buys that vanish by Monday. His checking account hits zero by Wednesday. By Friday, the cycle resets. Flo King looks at Wojak and laughs. You saved for 20 years and you're still broke? At least I had fun. And here's what's twisted. Flo King isn't entirely wrong about the math. The difference between Wojak's 20 years of sacrifice and Flo King's 20 years of reckless spending, smaller than you think. Wojak has $260,000 that lasts 4.5 years. Flo King has zero but memories of good beer. Neither can retire. Neither has freedom. Neither can walk into their boss's office and say, I'm done. Both of them lost, but only one was lied to. And that lie has a birth certificate, a specific year, a specific book, and a specific reason nobody ever corrected it. The idea of saving 10% goes back to 1926. A guy named George Clayson wrote it. One rule, keep 1/10 of everything you earn. And in 1926, it actually worked. The average home cost about $5,000. A good salary was $3,000 a year. Pensions existed. Your company took care of you when you got old. Social Security kicked in a decade later. Medical bills didn't bankrupt families because a hospital visit cost about the same as a nice dinner. So when someone saved 10% back then, they weren't building their only lifeline. They were adding a cherry on top of a system that already had their back. Wojak's dad told him this over a kitchen table when Wojak was 18, grease stains on the tablecloth, coupons fanned out like playing cards. Save 10%, son, and you'll be fine. His dad believed it because, in his world, it was true. That world ended before Wojak's first paycheck. Today, the average home costs $383,000. Average salary, $59,000. That ratio flipped completely upside down. Pensions? Gone. 86% of private workers don't have one. Social Security? The trust fund is projected to run dry by 2034. Healthcare? $22,000 per family per year. Every single pillar that made 10% enough has been demolished, piece by piece, decade by decade. But the advice survived. Nobody updated the manual. And someone kept printing it. Because when you see who profits from Wojak following a rule written for his grandfather's economy, your blood will boil. If this is clicking, if you're seeing the game for what it is, smash that like button. It's free, takes half a second, and helps more people see through the same lie that's bleeding Wojak dry. And this is where El Pepperoni walks in. The frog in the crisp suit. Pepperoni sombrero tilted just right. Homebrewed coffee in a chipped mug that says, "World's okayest investor." Banks have a special word for El Pepperoni. They call him a deadbeat. That's their actual term for customers who pay in full, carry no balance, and generate zero interest revenue. The banks hate him. They can't make a dime off this frog. El Pepperoni pulled up a spreadsheet at 2 a.m. once, coffee going cold beside him, and ran the numbers 3 times. He didn't believe them the first 2. But the math was clear. 10% in today's economy is like bringing a water pistol to a wildfire. Not just insufficient, a distraction. It makes you feel like you're doing something while the system quietly eats you alive. And the system eats you through something El Pepperoni calls the invisible tax. Remember that name. It's the tax that doesn't show up on your pay stub, but drains your account every single month. Here's how it works. Wojak transfers his sacred 10% to savings. His checking account dips below the minimum balance. The bank charges him $12 a month for the privilege of being broke. That's $144 a year, but that's the warm-up. 1 month the timing goes wrong. Rent payment hits 2 days before payday. Overdraft, $35, gone. 3 more small charges post while the account is negative. $40 in purchases, $105 in fees. Now here's where it gets ugly. That $35 overdraft on a $5 purchase? Calculate it as an annual percentage rate, the same way banks calculate your interest. That's 700%. Payday lenders in most states are capped to lower than that. But your friendly neighborhood bank does it every day, millions of times, and nobody blinks. Flo King, for the record, doesn't have overdraft problems. Hard to overdraft when your balance is permanently zero. He considers this a life hack, but overdraft fees are just the cover charge. The real show is what happens to Wojak's shoes. And it explains why being poor costs more than being rich. Wojak buys $80 work shoes. They look decent for 4 months, then the sole peels. New pair, 80 more. Over 5 years, $400 on shoes that keep falling apart. El Pepperoni bought 1 pair of $300 boots 5 years ago. Resoled them once for $40. Total, $340 over 5 years. Wojak spent $60 more for worse shoes. This is the boots theory, and it applies to everything. Cars, appliances, furniture. Being broke means you can only afford the cheap version, and the cheap version always costs more in the long run. But bad shoes and overdraft fees are nothing compared to what happens when Wojak buys one nice thing. Because one nice thing never stays alone. And the phenomenon that explains why has a name. And once you hear it, you'll see it in every purchase you've ever made. Wojak gets a bonus at work. First one in 3 years. $1,400 after taxes. He decides to treat himself for once. Buys a leather jacket, $280. Looks great. But then he catches his reflection in the store window and notices his jeans look raggedy next to this beautiful jacket. So he grabs new jeans, $90. Then the old sneakers clash with the new outfit. Fresh kicks, $120. Then he walks into his apartment wearing this sharp new look, and suddenly the place feels like a cave. New throw pillows, a rug, 200 more. 6 weeks later, that $1,400 bonus is vapor, not spent on rent, not on bills, on a chain reaction triggered by a single jacket. This is the Diderot effect, named after a French philosopher who got a fancy bathrobe as a gift and then replaced everything in his house to match it. One purchase creates a feeling of incompleteness that only more purchases can fix. And it works on everyone, every single time. El Pepperoni knows about this. That's why his apartment looks the same as it did 3 years ago. Same used Toyota Camry with 200,000 miles. Same cracked phone screen he doesn't bother fixing. Not because he can't afford better, because he understands that every new purchase sends a signal to his brain demanding he upgrade everything else. He refuses to pull the first thread. Flow King is the Diderot effect with the pulse. Gaming chair led to desk, led to monitor arm, led to LED strips, led to new headset. 300 over budget in a week. His mom asked for rent. He said next month. Wojak looks at the empty bonus and for the first time doesn't blame himself. He doesn't know who to blame yet, but not me is a start. And here's the darkest part. Wojak knows all this somewhere deep down. He's always known. He just never had a number to aim for, a number that changes everything. El Pepperoni has that number, and it has a name. El Pepperoni calls it your escape velocity rate. Think about a rocket. A rocket doesn't leave Earth by going a certain percentage of some speed. It has to hit a specific velocity, about 25,000 miles per hour, or it falls back down. Your finances work exactly the same way. There's a dollar amount where, once your invested assets cross it, compound interest stops being a cute footnote and becomes the engine. Your money starts earning more than you do. That's escape velocity. The first 100,000 is the hardest, brutal, slow, feels pointless. You put in 6,000 a year, the market gives back maybe 400 in returns. Big deal, a grocery trip, but watch what happens after. At 100,000 invested, 7% average return generates 7,000 a year, more than your annual contribution. At 500,000, it's 35,000 a year in returns alone. That's almost a full salary, generated while you sleep. That's the escape velocity moment. That's when the rocket clears the atmosphere. But Wojak, saving 6,000 a year, doesn't hit 100,000 until year 12. 12 years of grinding before the math even begins to help. El Pepperoni, saving 25,000 a year, hits 100,000 in year 3. By year 12, when Wojak is just crossing the starting line, El Pepperoni is sitting on over 500,000, and his money earns more than Wojak's entire annual contribution. Same years, same market, wildly different lives. Wojak hears this and his first thought isn't, I can't. It's, why did nobody tell me this at 25? Good question. Wrong target. The real question is what to do right now. The sacrifices you make in years 1 through 5 determine whether you retire at 55 or work until your body gives out. And the tools to accelerate those years are already inside Wojak's paycheck, hiding in plain sight. You're probably thinking, 25,000 a year? On 60,000 salary? Impossible. And you're right. If income is fixed and expenses are locked. But neither is true. And there are specific, concrete, boring but effective tools that nobody talks about because they don't make exciting headlines. They just make people rich. Wojak's employer offers a 401k match, 3%. For every dollar Wojak puts in up to 3% of his salary, his boss adds a free dollar. For every dollar, $1,800 from Wojak, $1,800 from his employer, $3,600 a year instead of $1,800. Wojak doesn't feel a thing extra, but Wojak isn't contributing at all, because Flo King, who lives in his mom's basement and thinks a Roth IRA is a type of Irish whiskey, told him retirement accounts are the government trapping your money. So Wojak's free $1,800 a year, which over 20 years with compound interest becomes roughly $75,000, just evaporates. $75,000 that required zero extra effort, zero extra hours, just a form and a signature. Wojak left $75,000 on the table because he took financial advice from a guy who microwaves ramen in a Viking helmet. But free employer money is just the first gear. The next tool is the single most powerful account in the American tax code, and almost nobody uses it. El Pepperoni's favorite 3 letters, HSA, Health Savings Account. The only account in America with a triple tax advantage. Money goes in before taxes, saves you 22 to 32% instantly. The money grows tax-free inside the account. And when you pull it out for medical expenses, 0 taxes on withdrawal. No other account does all 3. Not a 401k, not a Roth, nothing. El Pepperoni maxes his HSA every year, $4,150 if you're single. But here's his move. He doesn't spend it on medical bills right now. He pays out of pocket, keeps every receipt in a folder, and lets the HSA money invest and compound for decades. Then years later, he reimburses himself tax-free for every single receipt. No time limit on reimbursement, the closest thing to a legal cheat code in the entire system. Wojak scrolled through his benefits package for the first time ever. The HSA option was on page 27 in font so small he had to zoom in 3 times, almost like someone didn't want him to find it. Then there's where Wojak keeps his emergency fund, a regular savings account at his big national bank. Interest rate, 0.01%. On $6,000, Wojak earns 60 cents a year. 60 cents. His bank takes that same deposit, lends it out at 7 or 8%, and pockets the difference. Hundreds off Wojak's money. He gets 60 cents. El Pepperoni moved his emergency fund to a high-yield savings account at an online bank years ago. Same FDIC insurance. Same safety. Rate, around 5%. On $20,000, that's $1,000 a year in pure interest. The 10 minutes it took to open that account have paid him thousands. Wojak is still earning 60 cents because he never questioned where his money sleeps. And credit cards. Wojak is terrified of them. His dad's voice in his head, credit cards are the devil's money. And fair enough, 24% interest has destroyed plenty of lives. But El Pepperoni sees credit cards as a tool, not a trap. He picks cards with sign-up bonuses, puts every regular expense on the card, groceries, gas, utilities, things he'd buy anyway, pays the full balance every single month, never carries debt, never pays interest. And at the end of the year, the credit card companies have paid him somewhere between $700 and $1,200 in cashback and rewards for buying things he was already going to buy. The banks designed rewards to lure people into debt. El Pepperoni takes the bait, eats it, and walks away clean. That's what makes him a deadbeat. That's why they hate him. Flo King has 4 maxed out cards and took a cash advance at 29.99% for a Vegas bachelor party. He doesn't know what APR means. Something shifts behind Wojak's eyes. Not hope, not yet. Something sharper. The quiet kind of anger that actually gets things done. 401k with match, maxed HSA, Roth IRA, high-yield savings, strategic credit cards. $13,000 a year in tax-advantaged accounts. Cost to Wojak's daily life, $10 a day. 1 DoorDash order. That's the real price of escape velocity. Wojak's bank has known about every single one of these tools since the day he opened his account. They chose not to tell him. Because informed customers are bad customers. And they have a word for customers who figure it out on their own. Deadbeats. They have a different word for Wojak. A revolver. Someone who revolves debt forever. Guess which one they love. Now remember that Walmart self-checkout. The humming lights, the red screen, declined. Let's rewind. Same Tuesday night, same 11:47. But it's El Pepperoni at the register. Same store brand rice, same gallon of milk. He taps his card, the one that gives 2% back on groceries. The screen flashes approved before his finger leaves the reader. He doesn't even look at it. He's thinking about whether to rebalance his portfolio this quarter or let it ride. The total was $11.43. He'll get 23 cents back in cash back. It's nothing. It's everything. Because behind that tap is a system. An HSA compounding in the background. A 401k matched dollar for dollar. A Roth that'll never be taxed again. A high-yield account earning 50 times what Wojak's earns. 6 months of expenses, sitting in reserve, without breaking a sweat. El Pepperoni's cart is the same as Wojak's. His shoes are older. His car has more miles. His phone screen is cracked. But his net worth has 7 digits, and it grows while he sleeps. Out in the parking lot, Flo King is still in the minivan. Engine running. Discord still blaring. Someone's talking about a guaranteed way to get rich quick. Flo King turns up the volume and cracks another beer. Valhalla is coming any day now. And Wojak? Wojak is standing outside Walmart under a buzzing parking lot light, holding that bag of rice, staring at his phone. He just typed 3 words into Google. What is HSA? For the first time in 20 years, he's not asking, how do I save 10%? He's asking, how do I build a system that actually works? That question is worth more than everything in his savings account. If this video changed how you see your paycheck, subscribe and hit the bell. Every week we dissect another trap the system set for Wojak and show exactly how El Pepperoni walks right past it. Drop a comment with your real hourly wage after you run the numbers. I read every single one. The 10% rule isn't evil. It's obsolete. Built for a world of pensions, cheap houses, and single-income families. That world ended decades ago. The only thing that survived was the advice. And outdated advice is more dangerous than no advice because it gives you the illusion of progress while the ground erodes beneath your feet. Wojak followed the rules. The rules were wrong. So stop bailing water, patch the hole, then build something they can't sink. Become the customer your bank despises. Take their rewards. Dodge their fees. Stack your money in accounts they wish you'd never heard of. Hit your escape velocity. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Your move.